I'm Laura Bonnell, and this is the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast coming to you from Detroit. Please subscribe and even rate and comment on our podcasts when it moves you. I learn something new with every podcast, and I'm always inspired by the people that are showcased here. We don't give medical advice. You need to connect with your doctor for that. I hope that this Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast educates you and sparks some volunteering or advocacy. The CF community needs people like you. Thanks to our sponsors, Viatris and Vertex, for their support. Melissa Yeager, who is the executive director and co-founder of the Claire's Place Foundation, is a dear friend of mine. And since the planning stages of Claire's Place Foundation, Melissa has spent countless hours working for the cause and, of course, raising her two children, Claire, who is the foundation's namesake, and Ellie. And with many years of experience in project management and event planning, she has been the drive and the experience needed to get the foundation off the ground, as well as the personal history of raising a child with cystic fibrosis. And Melissa is also a strong supporter of many charities and fundraising activities in her community, mostly related to causes that support families and children living with this and to other rare diseases. And she's definitely a friend to the Bonnell Foundation, and we really appreciate that. Founding Claire's Place has been a way for Melissa to give back and share her experience with other families living with cystic fibrosis, and we are delighted to have her. So welcome, Melissa. Thanks so much. It's always good to see you.
It's always good to see you, Laura. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And like we said, we're both wearing pink. So from California to Michigan, here we are.
Besides the color we're wearing, but we both needed a cheerful day, right, during the fall, right?
Yes, we did. So, and for anyone who might not be familiar with Claire's Place Foundation, I talked about it in the introduction, but, tell us about Claire and who she was, how you're doing. I mean, I know every September since she passed is so hard, but
I could talk forever about Claire. I know all of us CF parents are very in love with our children, and we're so connected. I think it's part of being a caregiver, in addition to being a mom, that you create this incredibly strong bond with these kids. But I could start from the beginning. She was born in 1997. And at the time, she was our first child. And literally the day I was supposed to have her, I went to the doctor because I was, a little bit late. She was like a 2-week late baby, which they're like, that's fine, but come in and let's check you out. So I had an ultrasound. And it was one of those moments, Laura, where your heart just sinks because the ultrasound tech was like, 1 second, I'll be right back. And she leaves the room and leaves me sitting there like panicking, because they won't tell you anything. Comes back in with 3 doctors and they're looking at the screen and nobody's telling me anything. I'm like, what is going on? They leave the room again. They come back and they say, well, we want you to go for a better ultrasound because there's something going on with the baby. We're not sure what. And what they were seeing was that she had meconium ileus. So her bowel had ruptured. So she had a big, cyst in her abdominal cavity. And they couldn't see it because it was soft tissue, but they knew something was wrong. And they sent me over for a more intense ultrasound and then induced labor right away. So that was my first child. And it was really, really a scary time. And I remember when she was born, so I was able to have her. The birth went fine. It was intense, but it was fine. But when she was born with this giant belly, and little arms, but her eyes were really bright, and she had these giant eyelashes and pink lips, and she was just looking at us like, what's up? But she was supposed to be so sick, and they rushed her off to surgery, and they said, it's a telltale sign of cystic fibrosis. Have you ever heard of it? And her father and I are both like, can't be that. We've never even heard of it, right? Like, I don't know if that happened for you, Laura, when you had your first child, but we totally out of the blue. We have never heard of it. We haven't had anyone in our family that we knew about. So it was a real shock to us. Was that the same for you?
yeah, we didn't know we were carriers either. And we diagnosed Molly our first because nobody believed us. Nobody they thought we were just first-time crazy parents.
Oh, overprotective.
Yeah. Go back to work was what we were told.
Oh, gosh, I see. Well, the meconium ileus, then it was kind of a blessing because she got almost an immediate diagnosis. Care immediately. So they did this sweat chloride test And within a few, days, maybe it was 7 days or something like that, we found out that she was positive for cystic fibrosis. And it was 1997. And at the time, Google still wasn't that big of a thing. Nobody had their phones. We're not running, searching the web. So we literally went to the library. She was born in Austin, Texas, and, looked up cystic fibrosis. And it was really, really a bad prognosis at the time. It was very scary. They said, age approximately 10 years old through elementary school, depending on the mutation, et cetera. And so that was just heartbreaking for us when we got that news, just devastating because, your mind goes to the what ifs and all of the hard, dark places of this child is not going to have a good life. She's going to suffer. I mean, it's just so heartbreaking especially when it's your first child, or I guess for any child, actually, just to be hit with that news was really, really difficult.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a break right here because my dog is scratching to get in.
Okay.
Hi, Izzy. But here, I'll let her.
We love pets. Yeah. Oh, a debut cameo. There you go.
Her name is adorable, but she's like the funniest looking dog.
She
I
is.
think she's adorable.
I am glad my dog has remained quiet and the
Oh,
cat has not wandered in. The dog is not in here. No,
Oh,
he is chilling elsewhere. Yeah.
oh, you're lucky. Yeah, little dogs, they like to be right on you all the time.
Yes.
But anyway, so I'll try and do this so you can edit that part out if you want to. But,
No, we love that camp.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. So her father, John, and I were, it was devastating news. And you're looking at this little baby. She had to have, the bowel reconstruction immediately. She couldn't eat for 7 weeks. We were in, the NICU for a long time, staying around a McDonald house. It was the whole thing that you see families go through still when children are born with that particular situation. Meconium is very hard at first. But during that time, I educated myself as much as I could about cystic fibrosis and really we had to kind of change our mindset. I know that you understand this, but we had to really think, are we going to approach this like, doom and gloom? Or are we going to be as positive as we possibly can and give this kid, you never know, miracles could happen. We actually thought maybe in her lifetime it will be cured, which we could talk about that later. But, we just had to really, really force each other, remind each other to be positive and to be hopeful and to have faith. Because I think that's really important when you're raising a child, not to be like doom and gloom and over scared and helicopter parent and all of that,
Right.
So that was the first basically year of her life, was getting used to fibrosis care. She had a feeding tube inserted. She had the whole thing, sinus surgery. I mean, it was a hard first year. It was a really hard first year. But something that came of that was, there are so many miracles that you miss if you're afraid. I think that's just one of those things, like if you're constantly living in fear, then you miss all of the beautiful things. Like so many times people told us Claire wasn't going to make it, or she was too sick for this or too sick for that. But, if you're living in that kind of fear, you don't allow the miracles and the good things to happen. So we had to really train ourselves in how to raise her and keep our attitudes positive. But I will say, when she was 7 years old, she got her first video camera, and she was at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, and I had to work. We were never fortunate enough to let me stay home until many, many, many years later. She was 13 before I was able to actually be a stay-at-home full-time caregiver. But she was at Children's Hospital LA with her nanny, Lindsay. I get there at the end of the day, and they had started making videos. And I was like, oh, let me see them. And they're so cute. There's one, and I can send it to you, Laura. It is so funny. She can't even say. She says cystic fibrosis. Like, she can't even say all. Like, so she's like, and she's talking directly to the camera. And she says, a lot of people here, oh, it's going to make me cry. A lot of people here are trying to help. And I'm asking you just to help. Just try to help people with cystic fibrosis. And it was really, really sweet. And so, directly to the camera, kind of like what ended up happening later in years with social media. But she had that from the beginning. She really wanted to reach a greater audience.
And I was going to say, like, just from the outside view, from us seeing her and getting to know her, I've said this to my kids recently, and I feel it for you always since I've known you. You nailed parenting. I mean, we are not without mistakes, but we nailed it. You did a great job. Claire was such a spark and feisty and got everybody's attitude switched around about living life and enjoying what you have. Like, I mean, what an incredible kid you raised, you know? You did such a great job.
So sweet to say that, but when people say that to me, and of course I'll say thank you, and I promise I'll get my chair situated here. I'll say thank you for that because I do appreciate that. And I think a lot of CF parents work really hard and they do a great job, but I don't feel like I can really take all the credit for it in any way. I feel like kids are born the way they're born. Like I have another daughter who is her 100% opposite. 100% could not be more different. And I think I raised them the same. I don't know. I mean, they have the same environment, but I think Claire was born with this extra drive to like make an impact in the world. And Ellie, on the other hand, my younger daughter, she's really shy. She doesn't want anything to do with social media. You put her in a camera and she runs away. I mean, just completely opposite. A little probably more normal, she went through the cranky teenage years. Like Claire never even went through cranky teenage years. I mean, I don't know. She was a different kind of a kid,
Yeah.
It's like,
No, I understand what you're saying, and it's not an egomaniac thing or anything. I just think that we're so hard on ourselves all the time as parents, especially as moms, that despite everything that may have gone sideways sometimes, I think we need to say we did our best.
yeah,
And we laughed, we cried. I mean,
that's true.
we were silly, whatever.
It is good to remember, especially we haven't gotten to the point. Of course, she's passed away. She passed away in 2018, but a lot of times since then, I think, gosh, if only I had, if only, if I had known, if I had done this, if we hadn't done this, we didn't do the transplant. I mean, all of those things, but it is a relief. And now 6 years it's been since she passed. I'm getting to that. I did the best I could with what I had, operation I had at the time. I did the very best I could. And we thought it'd be different, and I think, everybody has a plan, but anyway.
Right. And I also think, and I only learned this from people like yourself and others too, that it doesn't matter if it's the holiday. It's not like you're only thinking of her when it's a holiday. You're thinking of her every day and you're missing her every day. So it doesn't matter what day it is. In particular, it could be a hard day or a good day after you lose your child.
There's nothing like it. It's literally every second of every day. You know how I was telling a friend recently, I identify a lot with other parents who have lost their children because it's a really unique, I think, group of people. And I think grief is grief and everybody grieves and we all understand it. There's something I think is maybe a little different, like you find your people, right? So I identify with other parents who have lost children, and this lady described it so well. She said, you know how when you're walking around in life and you have like this internal LoJack on your kids, you're not even aware that you have it, but like, where your daughters are, basically, what they're doing, where they are in their life, maybe little things. And it's kind of a little soundtrack in the back of your head. Like, I know Ellie's at school, she's blah, blah, and all this. When you lose them, it is such a weird feeling to not have any idea where they are. That's just like, even though they've passed, you're hoping they're in the afterlife, in the better world, in heaven is where I believe, but you just don't know. You don't feel them all the time. You don't know what they're up to. Are they enjoying it? Is it awesome? Is it terrible? Are they lonely? Were they scared? I mean, so it's really every second of every day. And I don't think you realize that you think of your children every second of every day until you lose one.
Yeah. I mean,
And
that is a hard and beautiful way to describe it of how you're feeling and dealing with it. And if Claire was still here, she would be so happy with how you have kept the foundation still going. And I mean, you're doing great things. And you've kept her alive, and everyone still loves every time you post a video or some beautiful memory or a statement that she made. So
thank you.
what kind of new things is Claire's Place Foundation doing to help the CF community?
Yeah, so since the, amazing, life-changing, game-changing modulators have been on the market, what we've noticed is that people are supposedly living more healthy lives.
At first, I was very bitter about it. I have to tell you, as a mom, because it was FDA approved 6 months after Claire passed, and I was just it was heartbreaking. But she was participating in trials and doing her part, and she had other issues, so I can't say 100% it would have been perfect for her. But it was very heartbreaking for me at first. But what we found in our community, our primary program is extended hospital stay grants. So something Claire and I saw all the time while she was being raised was were these children in the hospital alone. And you've probably experienced it, being there with your children over the years and their lives when they were younger, where you'd see a child there alone. And as horrible as it sounds, it's very easy to get into like, how could they do that? How could they leave their child there alone? It's so sad. And I'd want to go help them. And, I was just, I had a different image in my mind. And then when I found out in talking to people was that there's so many factors involved in that. They may have other children at home they have to take care of. They may be a single family home, may not have a vehicle to get there back and forth. There were all these factors. So, Claire's Place's original program was extended hospital stay grants so that we can help the family so they can be there with their kid. So maybe they're out of paid medical leave. Maybe they're out of paid time off. We're going to cover their rent or their mortgage so they can be where they need to be, because every day is so different at the hospital. The second you leave the room, the specialist comes in, right?
Right.
So if you can imagine being that person who's like, I can't be there. It's so stressful. So that was our original program. And what we've noticed over the last few years since these modulators is that we're not having as many extended hospital stays. Thank goodness. Sometimes our older population, absolutely, they're still experiencing extended stays and having some struggles. But the younger generation, these kids that have started taking it a few years ago are doing so great. They're not having extended stays. So Claire's Place Foundation is so, I would say, agile. That's another way to say it's tiny. That we don't have a big, group of, corporate people to get the approval to do a new program. So we thought, we wanted to address this new need in the community where these young adults with cystic fibrosis, they are now trying to get a job. They're trying to go to college because they are having a future that they didn't really expect. And I think there's a psychological term for that, some kind of syndrome where it's a happy, wonderful future, but it's unexpected. So it's unknown. So they're feeling left behind, right? So we started a program called the Work Proudly program. And so it's more of a long-term solution to help these young adults that maybe have never finished high school because they didn't feel well enough. They were really, really sick their whole life. They didn't homeschool. They didn't get their GED. They never went to college. They didn't think they would need to have a career. So we are providing certificate training, so online certificate training, technology, Wi-Fi if they need it, headset if they need that, career counseling, LinkedIn help, resume optimization, all of this stuff to get them ready for their workforce when maybe they had never thought it was possible. We've had some amazing success stories. And the goal of it, not everybody has to do this, but our primary goal is that they would find remote work so they can continue taking care of their illness. Even if they're hospitalized, they could still have an income, do both at the same time, because it's still dangerous for people to have to be out in cold and flu season. I mean, I don't know that is ever going to change. But so that's our primary goal. And it has been so popular. We've had way too many people who referred. I think we have 420 people in our database that are interested in this program. And
Wow.
we're small. So that is it's what we're giving a lot of funding to. We're looking for funding. If anyone is interested in helping people with disabilities get to work, it's a wonderful program. It's very streamlined, it's very simple, and it's incredibly impactful. Because what we found is their self-esteem, goes through the roof. I mean, even if they're not going to get the job that they trained for, like medical billing and coding is a big popular one. People go to get medical billing and coding training. Well, it takes a while to break into that field, to get experience, to be hireable. Even if they don't get the job right away, they feel so much better about their future and themselves and their capability and understanding about how the work world works. So it's been really rewarding. So we're putting a lot more funding towards that.
That is a great program, and I was excited about it since I heard that you got that program, and it's something that no one else is doing in the CF community. So
Yeah.
hats off to you. That it's just fantastic. I'm really glad it's out there and hope that, people take advantage of it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's funny because a lot of people, when we go looking for funding, they'll say, well, what about, the Jobs Corps in every city? I mean, there are a lot of federal programs, but I think what's happening is it's really specific in the CF community because also they have they're like embarrassed to go because they don't have their GED or they're not well enough to get a job, and Job Corps will be like, go apply for these jobs. It's a really unique situation. And so we're trying to address that need. And we do refer some people to the federal programs because a lot of job boards and job support, but it's not always appropriate for our community. So we're doing our best. And we're always looking for people to partner with us in this program, Laura.
Hey, I'm with you, whatever you need. And honestly, like, I think it's a really good fit. And we've always talked about, like, from Michigan
I know.
to California or California to Michigan or whatever to do something. And we give the college scholarships and, trade school, all that stuff. So yeah, any way we can help, like we could figure out a way or extend your program or help you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah, we should talk about it because the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation recently gave us another community grant for that program. And it's just growing so fast, that we need more. And I know that larger funders love it when small organizations collaborate. So maybe we can address this need together. I would be so interested in talking about that further.
Okay, we have some offline talking to do. That sounds great. And I also wanted to tell you funny things. So I was looking around your website again because just before the podcast, I wanted to make sure I looked at everything. And I was looking and I looked on the resource page and I was like, oh my gosh, Bonnell Foundation's not on it. And then I looked no, it's okay. I looked at our resource page and Claire's Place isn't on it.
Okay, well, fix that today.
I hurried up. I sent my web person. I'm like, oh, we got to put Claire's Place Foundation on our resource page because it isn't on there. So, and it was just funny, but it also brings me to how we work together so well and how the foundations support each other. And just recently, you reached out to any foundation and you let us use your platform. You put our video on Claire's Place on social media. And that was a beautiful thing. I was so touched and loved that. And different people got to see what we're doing. So thanks for that. That was fantastic. You did that for so many people.
Yes, I think one of my friends, Travis, with Piper's Angels Foundation, he talks to me a lot. We've talked before in the past about how it's such a small, rare disease community that we should all be working together. There's no room for I think the nonprofit industry is just as competitive sometimes as the for-profit industry. But I think they're all covering a different need, a different part of the country. We were so excited to share about all of we call them our sister organizations, across the country. Because I was thinking, if I put myself back in my own shoes when Claire was born in 1997, if there was the internet and all this, there was social media, it's so great to be able to go, hashtag cystic fibrosis and see all of the options available to me. So we're always happy to do that. And we happen to be blessed with social media just because of Claire. I mean, that was the instigation, that's why our Instagram account grew, our YouTube channel, her YouTube channel grew. She reached a lot of people. So we're always happy to spotlight. And if you ever have a campaign going on that you want help boosting out there, just let me know.
Well, what one of my dreams is, let's just put it out there right now. One of my dreams is when I have Education Day, all the CF organizations come so that every parent can learn about every foundation because we all do different things. So this year it's May 3rd, year unrated. If
That's the same day as my gala.
See, it just happens. We're also into it just happened between CFRI and Emily's Entourage and me. We had our biggest fundraising galas on the same weekend. Yeah. Yep. So no worries. We'll figure it out. But that is
Send you information to have it there. Yes.
yeah. We will make it happen. And this is why it's so great to talk and glad that everybody can hear our fabulous ideas because it's truly how we work, always brainstorming and thinking how we can help the CF community. So
Absolutely. And not competing. That's the thing I love. There are people that will give for your scholarships. Amazing. That's amazing. I think it's along the same lines as the word proudly thing. Like, oh, these kids, they haven't prepared. they need money to go to school. I think it's wonderful, you know, and Piper's Angels doing many, I mean, everybody does a different thing, and there'll always be donors interested in supporting that, or maybe even just that region. So I never think of it as competitive.
Right. Oh my gosh, there's no time for competition,
Uh,
right? Everybody's benefiting from something else. Yeah, so it's really, really wonderful. Yeah. What are you kind of looking forward to in 2025 for Claire's Place?
Well, I'm hoping, I don't know if you've had the same experience. Maybe I've heard from a lot of my friends in the nonprofit industry. You know, I'm a Association of Fundraising Professionals and these other philanthropy groups, and I've heard it across the board that's been hard for small nonprofits. And I think, you know, COVID, obviously, we did okay during COVID because there was a big need in the CF community. There was some people really inspired to help people with lung disease. But then it just fell off, and then election season. And now we're like, I mean, I hate to say it, but we've had one of the harder years we've had in our whole history. I mean, it's been really, really difficult. People have really pulled back. I think when people are afraid financially, of course, the first thing to go is their charitable donations, which is unfortunate because those people that we serve are also in greater need. So so I'm really, really hoping that 2025 is a better year as far as fundraising. We try to be really respectful because a lot of our donors are blue collar, middle income, and we have very few billion-dollar donors, like zero. But, you know,
If we could only all have $1 billion donor, that's all we need.
if you're out there, we could use it. No, but we have, which I love, we have a ton of grassroots supporters. So they're all like $20 to $50 a month, or they'll give $50 at each campaign, which is awesome. But it's been, you know, we've dipped into our savings. So I'm just really hoping for something different in 2025, that the economy shifts, that people's mindset shifts, that, you know, I think it's every small nonprofit stream. Can we just have that one campaign that raises $1 million? So we don't have to worry every year about making our budget, you know? So I'm looking forward to doing some unique out of the box campaigns, really growing the Work Proudly program, attracting larger grantors for the Work Proudly program. I think they're out there because a lot of people care about getting people with disabilities to work. I'm excited to partner with organizations that might want to hire some of our clients. And I've also just recently brought on a career consultant who specializes in people that face barriers to employment. So we're getting her up to speed. She's going to be our new program manager for Work Proudly. So lots of exciting things. And we have our Clarity Ball on May 3rd, the same day as your education night. And that's going to be a lot of fun. But, you know, just hanging in there has been this year. This year has just been hanging in there. Have you felt the same?
Yes, absolutely. We all did. Everybody I talked to felt the same. And it's funny because every time somebody wins the lottery, I put out there on Twitter, hey, if you have any extra money, you know, just maybe send it our way. And no one ever answered. But I do put it out there like, yeah, you know, whatever you've got extra, that would be great.
You know, someone told me something. We just brought on a new board member. Her name is Mara, and she's fantastic. She used to be the owner of Nothing But Cakes franchises in San Diego. She had, I think, 7 stores. She's a really successful businesswoman. She said in the for-profit world, there is a list that you can get your hands on of people that happen to do really well on certain stocks, or recently sold a big property, or had an inheritance, and then old business people go after them. And I'm like, why isn't that available for nonprofit people? We should get our hands on something like that, because maybe when someone gets a windfall, they're like, yeah, I do want to donate 10% of that, you know? That's something we should have in the nonprofit industry as well. I'm sure it's there.
We have to find an easier way. Everybody knows it's brutally hard. Fundraising is just brutal. And I also think, I've been saying this a lot lately, that nonprofits need to be seen the same way as a corporation. I mean, we're inputting and impacting the community and helping out so much. I think it's really important that I'm not trying to say elevated status of a nonprofit necessarily. It's just that I think they should be on the same kind of,
Yeah.
you know, kind of
Like-
playing. Yeah.
I agree.
Because it's really important stuff. We're really helping a lot of people. And are you working on legislation out there also in California. Are you involved with that at all?
I should be.
Oh, you can't do
Well,
everything.
I can't do everything, and we try to stay in our lane because I'm the only full-time employee.
Yeah,
A wonderful board of directors, but they all have careers. They're all, pro bono.
right.
And then I have one part-time helper assistant, and then I have interns. So it's really hard for us to branch out into say,
Oh, we're so small.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know. We're all so small. So I think California has great legislation, though, right?
They do. The Rare Disease Advisory Council was just passed. So congrats.
Yes. So I feel really confident, and I know that our local CF Foundation chapters do a lot of legislative work. So, and I know you do that as well. I've seen you up there.
Yeah. We're having some kind of fun. So, not, I mean, it's
How is your state in that area as far as legislation goes?
we're just working on the same old, same old. It moves very slow, as you know, as everyone knows. We're still trying to, our Rare Disease Advisory Council has been appointed, and I was appointed on that, which is exciting. And then we had an election, and Dr. Stephen Rapundolo was made the chair, and I was elected to the vice chair, but it still has to pass our Senate. So it's,
Well, that's huge, Laura. I didn't know that.
it's huge, but it's,
Congratulations.
well, we'll see how it goes, because if the Senate doesn't pass it, we start completely over in January, and it's taken like 6 years to get this far. So we'll see. So yeah.
I'll be sending good thoughts that way. I mean, it's so important. It makes me sad because CF is so rare, but the number is growing, and with people having more, longer lifespans, it's going to continue to grow. Now it's 40,000 people in the United States, right? So
Right.
it's pretty small, but really important. It's really important that we're represented and that those medications remain available. I mean, we hear a lot from people, although that's not what we specialize in, assisting people, getting medications. It's not part of what our foundation does, but we always refer them back to Vertex, the patient support centers. I know it's a big issue in our community. And I also know that Vertex is working really hard to get that access for people all over the world. It's tricky. It's a lot trickier than just make it available. From what I've heard, there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot to do.
Yeah. And all the pharmaceuticals have problems getting and giving access in different countries. Yeah, it is a huge issue. And I also wanted to talk to you, and I hope it's good news, about one of the posts that I just saw. So the son is Mana, is it Manye, and the mom is Erling. So how he had a double lung transplant, how is he doing?
I just heard from her this morning. Oh, makes me emotional. Working with the cystic fibrosis community, Laura, is a bittersweet thing for me. It truly is. When Claire passed the first month or so, I was like, I can't do it. It's going to be too hard. I never want to hear the word cystic fibrosis again. I was so sad and crushed and angry. But something pretty incredible happened after she passed, and I started getting messages literally from people all over the world, like Uzbekistan, Philippines, Italy, all over Europe, South America, people from everywhere. She had touched their lives in some way. And I was like, I can't just walk away from this. Because even whether they had cystic fibrosis or not, it was living with chronic, progressive, maybe sometimes terminal illness, and that whole thing, disability community, her message touched. So I felt really drawn to stay. And when people like Erling come to me, we've been serving this family for many, many years. And Erling is actually a Work Proudly participant. She's working on her medical billing and coding certification. She has 5 children. She's a single mom. And Monye, I've known him since he was a little bitty. So he's improving. I will think I can share that he's improving. I probably can't share a lot of details, but he did have a lung transplant, and he's currently in rejection in the ICU. In the hospital with chest tubes and suction and ventilator. They're trying really hard to turn it around in the what is it called? Plasmosis? And when they're in rejection, there's a treatment that you can do to kind of reverse the rejection in the bloodstream. But he's just...
Dylan would be able to tell us. But
yeah, he would know.
He would know. I don't know.
He's right up the street from me, by the way. I don't know if you know
I knew he was close. He's actually going to be here in a few weeks, so I'll get to see
Oh
him.
my God. You
Yeah.
guys FaceTime me. Y'all should FaceTime me.
Yeah.
But no, he's undergoing intensive treatment to try and reverse that rejection. He's just like a lot of our CF kids, that he's a little bright little light. It's, I see it in a lot of them. I don't know if it's part of it, but they just have this little spark about them. And he absolutely has that. And we lose them all the time. We still lose them.
Right.
But now there are these modulators and wonderful things happening. I know that you have seen it in your community as well, but they still pass. And it's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
But I try to make myself available to the best of my ability for that mom, going through that, because it's a really unique crew that you never wanted to be in. But
Yeah. It's brutal, as you know, because you are living it, but it's brutal to lose people. I just did a podcast also with Emily Schaller of Rock CF, who you know.
love her.
And we were talking about it too. We lost so many people this year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
so
I know. Yes. And it's like in this certain age range. It's like they're the ones that are still, they just haven't, because the modulator won't reverse everything, but it's going to start. So you're just in that in between. Right? I know my heart breaks literally almost every time that I hear of a loss in our community.
yeah. But I mean, it does look so much better for your kids if they're born today.
It is
But-
a game changer. Yeah. I know they're, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I wanted to end with you, I think, explaining how Claire started the foundation. I didn't touch on it enough in the introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was saying when she was 7, she got her first video camera. So she was all about raising awareness about cystic fibrosis already independently before any foundation. When she turned 13, she underwent a procedure called fundoplication. So she had severe acid reflux, which is something that, our kids get sometimes. And so it's causing recurring pneumonia.
And by the way, raising my hand, not to interrupt you, that's when I first met Claire on YouTube. That was the first time when she was 13. I don't know why that sticks in my mind, but that was the first time I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
First time I saw her video.
Wow, isn't that interesting? So I didn't know you were a follower for so long. So she had fundoplication. It was supposed to be super simple and out, but she ended up getting septic from that. Something happened. It's a long story, but I won't even go into it. But that's what happened. And she ended up in a septic coma for 16 days. And she was on a ventilator, and that wasn't powerful enough. So they put her on something called an oscillator. I don't know if you know what that is, but do you?
Mm-hmm. I'll have to explain.
Well, a ventilator has inhale, exhale, and she kept trying to crash anyway. So an oscillator just blows you up like a balloon and kind of keeps you there. You don't even exhale. It's just literally the last chance to keep you alive. And so the doctors came to us and said, we haven't had patients with cystic fibrosis come off of an oscillator. So they were preparing us for the worst. They said she has probably a 1% chance. So say your goodbyes. It was horrifying. Because she was just fine. It was the day after her 13th birthday. She had this surgery. We had a party for her, snuck her out of the hospital. They gave us a pass.
Yeah.
The next day she had the surgery, and then she was like gone. And it was just so horrible. But she recovered, obviously. But she came out of it with, severe lung damage that was, irreversible. So she was on oxygen from then. But I believe she had a near-death experience. And this is just me, doing research, looking back over some of the conversations we had, because she came back, like I said, she already had that fire in her belly to help and to make a difference. Well, this was just like on steroids, right? Like she came out, she said the thing that she felt when she felt like she was dying, when the sepsis was carried, she couldn't breathe, she felt like she was dying. She said the thing that popped into her mind was not sadness or fear, it was regret. And a lot of people say that when they have near-death experiences, because you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I'm not ready. And so that propelled her into starting, she came out of the coma the next day when she was able to talk. They removed the tube. She said she wanted to start a foundation. Like, okay, because we were just so happy and grateful that she survived, and neither one of us had ever done that, obviously. But we thought it would give her life more purpose and drive and get her better, because she couldn't even hold a fork. I mean, she had to go through a lot of rehab to recover from that. And we went and got this book. I think I have it on my shelf in here at the top. Oh, yeah, the top corner, Nonprofit Kit for Dummies. I don't know if you remember those from the old days, but I brought it to the hospital. We started reading it, and we started
Claire's Place Foundation. And basically it was to provide that support that our family had gotten while she was in the hospital, because that ended up being a 3-month hospital stay. So obviously I couldn't work. That's when I had to quit my job. I had people picking up Ellie from school, helping with our rent. I mean, it takes a whole community. And Claire said, I think there are a lot of people who don't have a community. Like, to her, that was just so foreign. And I said, I bet you're right, because we were very fortunate. We had church and huge families, and everybody just came out of the woodwork, but there are many people who don't. And so that was her primary mission for Claire's Place Foundation. And so we just started it. And then she went on this world tour of public speaking and spreading awareness, and her YouTube channel blew up. And she just it was really incredible to watch it happen. And I was in the background doing the admin work, right? Like, you and I both know it's a lot of administrative work.
Right.
She was the face of it. This was her organization, and she just really ran with it. And she was the type of person, she could walk into a room with C-level executives, sit at the head of the table, and walk out of there with a check for $100,000. That's just how she was. She was very inspiring, and people wanted to help her. They just were like, I feel it. Let's do this. She was really inspirational. And so when she passed, so it went, bonkers, and it started growing really fast. And then when she passed, I thought, I'm not that person. How am I ever going to fill those shoes? So I've learned over the last 6 years how to do better at that. It's not easy. I'm not Claire, but I carry her with me in a lot of what I do. Because like here in this picture, I feel her being like, yeah, go Mom. I can feel it sometimes. It feels the right thing to do. And I would never let all that work and all that joy that this foundation brought to her and all the help that we give to others just disappear, because I was too sad to handle it. Like, that would make me feel very guilty on my deathbed. Like, what did I do? Did I do enough? So yeah, that was the story, the founding story. And we've just grown and adapted to the changes happening in the cystic fibrosis community over the last 13 years. So
Wow.
Story.
Yeah, you're doing, and you've done so much. It's so appreciated and incredible and wonderful. And I'm glad you're still doing it. And I appreciate you sharing your emotion and your story and everything with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on. And I sometimes I don't know where my place is in the CF community, because I'm not really a CF parent anymore. And I don't have another child with CF, and I'm not really, so it's really wonderful to still be a part of this community. And, I love seeing you. I want to see you at the CF conference next year in Seattle. I definitely want to be there. Yeah. So there's still emotional things that sometimes I can't get over, but for the most part, I'm really happy for, to still be involved.
And it's so interesting, because I understand why you don't think of yourself maybe as a CF mom, I guess, but I always think of you as a CF mom. Like, I still do. You are. I mean, but it's complicated.
It depends on my emotional well-being that day or that week, honestly. And I have to listen to that. It's hard for me to hear from people who are doing great. Their kid is doing great. They're going to travel and they got new lungs, or they're, it's hard. I'm only human. So it depends on how strong I'm feeling at the time. But I guess I always will be a CF mom.
Yeah, but that makes so much sense. Nobody can argue that, that's the way it is. And you're amazing. So
thank you.
And thanks for your honesty. I'm sure that honesty and truth has helped so many people hearing that from you. So it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think it's important to take care of yourself too. So I know I called you when we were going to see each other at the conference. I'm like, or texted you. I'm like, I'm not coming. I can't do it this time. Thank you. You were so understanding, and I appreciate that. And I hope they're doing really, really well. I really do hope that they're doing great.
Yeah, they are. We'll see them for the holidays, so that's good. But yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for sharing everything that you do at Claire's Place Foundation. It's wonderful.
You bet. We're always looking for support. If anyone needs another organization to support or another program to support, look us up.
Absolutely. Everything is in show notes too. So
yay, good. Perfect.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
You too.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
The original music in this podcast is performed by Kevin Allen,
It's not complicated.
who happens to have cystic fibrosis.
We all got our worries and fears. I know what's got you frustrated, but loving you is so alright.
This has been the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast. For more information and to learn more about the Bonnell Foundation, visit our website at thebonnellfoundation.org. That's the BONNELL Foundation.org. This podcast was sponsored by Vertex Pharmaceutical, The Science of Possibility, and Viatris. It was produced by Jag and Detroit Podcasts. Follow our show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now.